I know our whole approach to this master course is about inclusive leadership, but the truth of the matter is that there is nothing that we do on this planet that does not involve and point directly to us. I remember when I was a child, they say every time you point your fingers, you have three fingers pointing back at you. And I remember thinking how simply profound and how profoundly simple that was. It's true.
There was a artist had a song many years ago, and one of the lyrics in his song simply said, "It doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine." You know how profound that is? That what he was talking about was being in relationship with people that add value, but for whatever reason, I'm moving so fast, I'm trying so hard to climb the corporate ladder, like I'm doing all of the stuff. I'm not appreciating what's right in front of me, right? The cliche is stop and smell a coffee or stop and smell the roses, right? The truth of the matter is it doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine. There are some good systems in our lives. There are some habits, there are some patterns of life that we as individual leaders have been doing and operating in for such a long time. And they work well. And so I introduced in the last module that we are now at the point where we're recognizing the value of healthy cycles, right? Because if we just create this bucket that all cycles are bad, right? That's just as bad as saying anything is whatever. It's not realistic and it's not balanced, okay? And so we want to add balance intentionally in our processing, right? So that we're able to see the fruits of balanced thinking and processing in the people that we serve, right? At the end of the day, this is all about us being inclusive in our leadership. All right, so we want to get better and better I think I'm going to pause and get a different mark. Okay. All right. So remember, one of our mantras for this whole time, if we can understand how a bike works, we can understand how life works. Yes? So we're going to continue with the motif of understanding the bike as a parallel to us revisioning how we view ourselves as leaders and how we impact the people under our purview. Yes? Okay. So, what are some good cycles? Well, let's look at some good bike cycles. Yes? Number one, a motorcycle. Now, when we first introduced the motorcycle, we were talking about it being the epitome of the fast life, right? Bright colors, loud noise, moving so fast, acceleration, speed, demon, cause a lot of pain and suffering with this cycle, right? That crash and burn is crazy. It draws a lot of people out. People look up, people notice, and people come to see the crash. People don't come to see a person falling off a bike. They come to this crash, right? So the motorcycle, that we kind of gave it a bad rap, but it's two sides to it. There's at least two sides to everything. You're defined up by the presence of a down. So if we identified a down, by definition, it has to have an upside. Well, what are those upsides? Well, motorcycles have great fuel efficiency in real life, right? They don't take a lot of work to operate once you learn. You got to learn how, because there's some gear shifting that goes on with motorcycles, right? They accelerate quickly, and they can get you from where you are to where you need to be relatively fast, right? Those are good things. You don't have to run it at 300 miles an hour, damaging life limit property, right? Putting everybody at risk. It doesn't have to be ridden that way. Instead, something that's nimble, fast, that doesn't take a whole lot to operate. Once I understand how to operate, that can get me to where I'm trying to go without a lot of pressure and work, that's very efficient in the process. Sometimes we're in a situation where we don't have time to sit down and think about everything that needs to be done. Sometimes it needs to be, years ago, there was a company called Rodney, and they would make these food processor type items, appliances, these small appliances, right? Different types of blenders and mixers and convection ovens and air fryer and all of this kind of and often they would combine different things that didn't seem like they would be combined. And his whole slogan, right, the selling phrase that paid was set it and forget it, right? Set it and forget it. You're probably chuckling to yourself, remember that right now. Well, we need to have some things that we can just put our items in it, right? Engage it. It efficiently gets us to where we need to go without a whole lot of a lot of thought, a lot of preparation, a lot of driving it. It's nimble, it's efficient, it's fast. Motorcycles. So there's some cycles in our life that kind of fit this. Another one that we gave a bad rap to, the spin cycle, the exercise bike. The truth of the matter is we need opportunities. What is this bike in real life? Let's take a step back. In real life, I can get on this and pump and hard and try and sweat, exert all of this effort and energy. And guess what? I'm not actually out in the elements. I'm still right there. Sometimes that's a lot of value. But I'm tired. I broke a sweat. I got my heart rate up, right? I burned my calories. That's a value add. It can be if we look at it like that. Sometimes we need things that just gives us the opportunity to stretch out, to be ourselves. We need relationships. A few modules ago, we talked about the value of having peer relationships, right? Good leaders have co-leaders that reflect back to them who and where and what they are, how they are, when they are, where they are, right? Why they are. When you need peer groups that give you this. Sometimes you need relationships or routines or habits that expend your energy, that allow you, years ago, I remember in my own marriage, right? We learned the value of having friends outside of each other that we can talk bad about each other. And it's not about, you need to talk bad about each other. The truth of the matter is you get on my nerves sometimes. It's normal. Acting like it doesn't happen is not normal, right? And so we instead kind of recognize the value of having friendships, relationships, opportunities that allows me to get that out. Think about sparring partners, right? I may not be able to hit you full force. Please follow the method, right? I may not be able to hit you full force, but if I go to this gym, this friendship, this walk through the park, this relationship, this opportunity, it allows me to get this out in a way where I can hear myself, I can think, I can process, and now I'm coming back into the situation balanced again, right? There's some good cycles in our systems. We as leaders need to be able to help our people recognize them, right? What is another one? I haven't seen this particular cycle too much up north. I live in Baltimore. I saw this more when I was living in the southern part of the United States down in Florida. A beach cruiser has wide handlebars, it has a wide seat, and the wheels, you can have some bikes, especially a 10-speed, which we're going to talk about in a second, can have really, really thin tires. Beach cruiser has really, really thick tires. And they also are girthy, right? They're not thin at all. They are perfectly designed to stay upright and balanced, the way the chain is set and the frame and everything, over the shifty maneuvering of beach riding, right? That sand is always kind of slipping, and a normal bike, you ain't getting too far with it. Like you're not really covering ground. But with a beach cruiser, you're good to go, right? It balances you out differently. There's some things that we need to have that are custom system, cycles, processes, relationship, patterns that we are used to having in our life that keep us stable when the very ground beneath us seems to be unreliable. Most importantly, more than any other relationship or system or provider or vendor or product line or anything else, is an internal compass, an internal sense of self. That right there, see, I told my daughter, I have a teenage daughter. This was years ago. And I was telling her, so at the time she was just starting to talk more about boys, all this other. And I told her, I said, you know what, baby girl, daddy doesn't have to trust all of these boys out here. She's like, no, because there's so many. I was like, it's too many boys. And she was like, you got to trust me. I was like, actually, no. And I don't know where this revelation, but it kind of like enlightened upon me, if I can say it, because it was such a calm sense of clarity and knowingness. No, baby girl, I don't have to trust you either. To teach you to trust yourself. That's the goal. Because you take you everywhere. If I have to trust you, if I have to be tethered to your thinking, your behavior, your conversation, I can't do this. I can't be here engaging us as leaders because I'm thinking about my baby girl. Where's she? How she? What's she? However, if I build within her the moral compass, the stability to be able to tap in, to reach what she needs to find, to connect to the source herself, I don't have to be everywhere she is, right? I teach her to trust herself. The other day, she was so sleepy. She was so sleepy, right? And she just refusing to go to sleep. She wakes up really, really early in the morning. She does 4 or 5 things, throughout the day, school, and sport, volleyball. She got this little part-time job on the weekend. She likes all this stuff she's doing. She like talking to her friends. She's always on the phones. And she's just kind of zombie-like moving around like, I'm like, baby, go to bed. She was like, I know, but I kind of want to tell you about it. I'm like, go to bed. I said, sweetie, remember when we talked about trusting yourself? I was like, this part of it, your body's telling you that it's tired. Trust yourself, right? So we use little parallels to get her to get the broader meaning. It's not about listening to her stomach growling or if she feels sleepy and go to bed. That's the starter to get her to listen to that intuition that kicks in. Right? Keep going. Another one. We talked about the big wheel and the tricycle and how trying to ride those things when we get older don't make no sense. Like, why are you still trying to hump your little shoulders, your big old shoulders, over such a small cycle? You don't look good doing it. It's too much. Like, what's going on? Well, the truth of the matter is these type of cycles have a low barrier of entry. They allow people to get onboarded to kind of learn the ropes. How good is our organization at doing that? One of the things that we do we do really, really well. We bring people in and give them this great, long, extended orientation. And we never train them again. We go from like, here's your introduction to raising the bar immediately. But what about the life cycle? What about sometimes where I need to be able to just to re-engage a low center of gravity? So if I mess up, it's not life or death. It's not life-limit property, right? I'm able to be in a place where I'm getting the benefit, low-hanging fruit. Some of us don't allow that benefit for ourselves. Some of us hold ourselves to very, very, very high standard that nobody can touch. Can I give us a mirror? Here's one of the ways we can recognize whether or not we hold ourselves to standards. We hold ourselves to standards that, just are kind of like out of reach, lofty, unreasonable. If somebody does something, and or if a situation happens in your mind, you can't let go of the blaming. Like, you just can't shake how much they messed up. That's called fault finding, right? And with that, really, see, you can't fault find and leave yourself out of it. It's not how life works, right? I know our whole approach to this master course is about inclusive leadership, but the truth of the matter is that there is nothing that we do on this planet that does not involve and point directly to us. I remember when I was a child, they say every time you point your fingers, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. And I remember thinking how simply profound and how profoundly simple that was. It's true. If something happened and I believe it's your fault, and I can't shake that, because listen, you can be involved in it and all that kind of stuff, but if the blaming, the weight of the blame has to go to you, for me, in my estimation of how I view this thing, I'm absolutely doing it to myself in a way that I may not even be aware. The dog that carries a bone brings a bone. The 3 fingers have to point back. It has to. It has to. What goes around comes around. I heard somebody say that the law of karma can also be referred to as the law of comeback. It's the comeback. It has to. We realize the reason why we don't like them doing it is because we are literally, if it was us in that situation, we couldn't forgive ourselves if we made that kind of mistake. So it's easy to chastise and get them because really it's the unworthiness, the benign, subconscious unworthiness that we as leaders deal with ourselves. We really want them to recover and do better. We have to create opportunities for us to have low-hanging fruit, low cycles, low center of gravity operation that allows us wins and opportunities to mess up in ways that's not life or death. Let's keep going. Last 2. Mountain bike is sturdy. I was mountain biking in the Dominican Republic through some treacherous terrain. We were up in the mountains of a place called Yarabacoa, right? Me and my crew, right? We just whitewater rafting. We jumping off the cliff sides. We had waterfalls. We're doing all of this stuff, right? We were going down. And I remember my bike was a little broken and I tweaked my knee maybe a couple of weeks before the trip, right? So my knee wasn't doing too well. I'm on a broken kind of mountain bike and we are like barreling through the forest over these like I'm looking down and it drops off of the mountainside through more forest. It wasn't safe. It wasn't safe, right? Great story. It was not safe. And the deal about it is that although my mountain bike wasn't in the best of condition, it was reassuring to still feel that it was relatively sturdy. That's what mountain bikes give us. A sturdiness, a ruggedness. You can get through this. There are some cycles that we can look to that remind us of the sturdiness, of the ability to get through. And if we don't find these readily within ourselves or readily within our organization, one of the best ways to find it is historically. There are leaders of industry. There are people across industry, across history, across times, across gender, across race, across ages, that have done some phenomenal things and have some great successes to talk. And these people, for us, represent the rugged, sturdy cycles that if we adapt a piece of their mindset, a piece of their approach, maybe it was their internal compass, maybe it was some of the other relationships that maybe it was their approach to business, whatever it is, maybe they just were very tenacious or very, very humble or whatever it is, there are examples out there. It don't take us all day to recognize that. Let us know that this can be done. That's right. This can be. Last but not least, this one you might get a little shock that I'm gonna put up. You only define the left by the fact that there is a right. East is defined by the fact that there's a what? When we introduced this several modules ago, I said it hit to me of living a lie, right? That's the description of this cycle in the negative. The very true, but negative. So what are the positives? Because negative is only defined by the fact that it's not positive, which means it's not the positive. So there has to be a positive in existence in order for the negative to exist, period, right? This leader is our ability to tap into our leisure. We don't rest. Not saying sleep. Some of us don't even sleep like we should. I'm not even talking about sleep. I'm talking about rest. Leisure. The overwhelming pressure to respond to every single email. That's some me stuff. That's some internal stuff. You want to know how we know it's not real? There are other people in our organization that don't respond all times, all through the week. They don't respond to every single email. Still right there. They ain't fired. They ain't lost a job. They haven't gotten demoted. Listen, let me talk to you because I feel us, right? We as leaders, we've been doing this for a long time. People that's funny or people that's brave or that like they had those skills, those traits at 3 years old, right? My little daughter, she used to cook. She's a great chef now, right? She's been in culinary programs and all that kind of stuff. She used to cook with one foot, sit on the ground, cross-legged. She would use one foot as like a bowl, a pot, stove, I don't know, and scoop it out with some little fake spoon. And then she would take her other foot and feed it like a baby. It's a crazy thing. She's been cooking. She used to play grocery store at my little pantry. My other kids didn't play grocery store. They got 5 children. They played it like once or twice to say they did, right? Hey, I'm a kid on this planet. Let's act like we went to the store. It was a part of her daily. She lived there, right? So, as leaders, we've been feeling what I'm about to speak to for a long time. Sometimes we have to give ourselves a reality set of questions and cross-check sentiments that shoot through our head, ideas that actually we know if we check them, that doesn't make sense. That's not valid. That's not real. The words I used here was rest and leisure, and that we don't do enough of it, and that other people don't operate in the organization the way that we do, and they're still, right? And you know what some of the thoughts that shot through some of our minds was? I just can't just stop. I can't just, like, if I don't just, who said just stop? Who said go from operating to throwing it all to hell in the handbasket? Who said that? Leader, you want to become different and better? You have to learn how to cross-check those ideas. When you go from one extreme, operating at level 10, nonstop 24/7, into somebody saying rest, leisure, and you internally fight it like, I can't, it's not realistic to have balance? Of course it is. We got to get better at cross-checking that outside of these conversations. Use these conversations as our launching pad to do what we know to do naturally, which is to check ourselves so that we can get better and better, recognizing the opportunities that's in front of us. Because if we don't, We're going to try to forego them all. We're going to keep operating inefficiently. We're going to go back to stuff that doesn't work. And this time spent will have been for them. I'm not here to waste time with you. I don't like you that much. I like you a lot. Not enough to be complicit and wasting your own time. You can't hang with me like this for that. You get to become different and better by radically changing your approach to leadership. That's what we get to do together. That's what we agreed to. That's what our friendship is all about. That's what it's based on. Yes? So now, let's put it into practice. You see, Burris.